Hello, it's Adelina Bordea, and this is SEO in 2025.
Adelina, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
Hey, David. So this year I'm going for having better organization when it comes to tasks and not going only for super big tasks, but also see the impact that smaller actions can have into an SEO strategy.
Got you. Okay, so better organization. So we'll come to that. But I'm intrigued by the small changes that you're talking about there. So what are the small changes you're talking about?
So sometimes we just forget that, for example, we have an on-page optimization. That means a lot of small changes actually, but we just have like a macro task where we put on-page optimizations. But maybe we can start by optimizing the title or the H1, or maybe improving the order the content has, or putting a better image or a better video as part of that content, and not only having that on-page optimization like an ongoing task that is never going to finish, that we are not going to be able to track correctly because we are going to do a lot of stuff and we are not going to know which of the smaller tasks and the smaller changes we've made has actually had an impact.
And how do you go about tracking the impact of those small changes? Because if you keep on making lots of little changes, it's hard to determine what actually resulted in hopefully improved rankings.
Exactly. So that's exactly what I'm trying to say. You need to make sure that you have like a roadmap. For example, you are changing the H1 of several pages. So you need to give it time before making a new change. So maybe just give it, I don't know, it depends on the project, 2 weeks, 1 month, it really depends, and see if that little change has affected how, the main keywords are ranking, or how the traffic is actually working on those pages.
And how do you sorry, just asking you that question in relation to that. So how do you know how long roughly to wait? Because obviously if it's 2 weeks or a month or even longer, you don't want to wait forever. For instance, if your traffic is high to a website, does that mean that you have to wait a shorter period of time?
I don't think it has to deal with the higher traffic, but with how many times your page is scrolled. And of course, this has to deal with how big your project is. We know that smaller projects aren't crawled as much as bigger ones, but I'm just going to say it really depends on your project. So no one better than yourself knows exactly when to check if something has really affected and changed, or if it's if it's done nothing.
And how do you know which element to test initially? Because you could test your page titles, your H1s, something else. What's likely to have the biggest initial impact?
Yeah, so for me, what I like doing is having like blocks of testing, because it's not like you do a micro test and you expect, or you wait, sorry, for 2 or 3 weeks and see what has happened on the whole website. You just take little blocks, you test that on it, and then if it has worked, then you implement it to the whole page. If not, you just discard that test, right? I don't know. I would go for content tests, of course, as you said, the titles, the content, making optimizations in terms of the technical side of the SEO as well. We can make some tests there as well. So I don't know. I would try to understand what is going on or what can be improved before having any other tests going on.
And to determine whether or not what you've implemented is a winner, do you simply say, well, if it has increased so many places in the SERP for my target keyword phrase, then that is what I'm looking for?
Well, it can be keywords, it can be the traffic that you brought to that specific site, that specific page, but it can also be changes in the behavior of your user. I mean, this is not 100% SEO, but we always work with product, and we work with, marketing and the rest of the teams. So not all the changes that we do are 100% provided for SEO. So like the impact that is going to have, it can be, as I said, on keywords, it can be on traffic, it can be on how many new ranks we have, or a behavior inside of that page.
And do you try and do split tests as well? And is there any software that you favor in order to track the changes that you've made?
For me, it's, Google Search Console is like basic number one, but then we have like self-made. Is that self-made? How do you say that? We have tools that the IT team has developed for us. So it's
proprietary software that you've developed in-house for your own use.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I like doing. But mainly we extract data like from the basic tools in SEO for tracking. I love, as I said, Google Search Console. Then we have Google Analytics 4, of course. That's like the main one everybody uses. And then we have some specific tools and some specific tracking that is made for us. Yeah.
And you're also a fan of regularly testing and improving web pages based upon, I guess, challenges with existing coding or content on the site, for example, keyword stuffing or minor errors in the code. What are you looking for there?
It really depends. For example, when it comes to content, we can maybe look for a change when it comes to the search intent. For example, imagine wanting to improve one of our blog posts. Well, maybe like 6 months ago or 1 year ago when we wrote that, it had a search intent, and right now it's not the same. So that's a plausible implementation and optimization we can do. Then, as you said, maybe we have issues with the WPO, or we have issues with the code where we have conflicts and the different, like the JavaScript and the HTML, like the basic conflicts. So all that can be put to a fixing, but it can also be tested and see if that's the real problem when it comes to, I don't know, a traffic drop or some keywords ranking drops as well.
I was intrigued by you mentioning the change of search intent. In order to establish that, I guess you should be aware of the kind of metrics that you should be expecting from that particular page. And if those metrics change significantly as you're tracking them over time, then that's when to check it out.
Yes. So the basic one is the bounce rate, because that is going to tell you, first of all, when you've launched that content, that piece of content is going to tell you if the user is actually finding what you thought the user will be finding when writing it. But then when it comes to an optimization, the bounce rate is another statistic that shows you very well if the user is kind of finds what they are looking for, if the search intent has changed, or also when Google moves around with your keywords. We know that Google is always working with that. So if all of a sudden you drop to the second page or the third page, then you are probably doing something wrong in terms of search intent as well.
Okay. And what about working with other teams internally to get these changes made? Because it's all very well and good trying to do everything yourself or working on a small site, but if you're working on a site that has hundreds of thousands of pages, do you seek guidance from other teams to assist you with determining the pages to focus on first?
Well, absolutely. Like, it depends if it's an SEO test. For example, if it's purely traffic intended, then of course the SEO team is going to select those pages. But if we want to make any other changes that will impact on purchases or that will impact on downloads or everything or anything, of course, we are going to speak to the other teams and see what is going on or how can we improve or what is the next step they are going to implement. We really need to know that in order to make a good job, because we are not separate teams. We don't want to work everyone like on its own. That's not the way a product actually works.
Absolutely. So don't work in silo, work with other teams on a regular basis, have at least a monthly conversation, I guess, with other content teams to see what pages are likely to be published and have some kind of say at least in terms of what the H1 and other important elements on those pages should be?
Yes, I mean it can be monthly, but we usually just knock at someone's door, like someone from the other team.
Door, desk, head, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, the head or whatever. But we try to have a mixed strategy. So we try to fulfill the user, but we try to fulfill the search engines as well. Because if not, it's just not working.
Now, earlier on, you used the word roadmap. So what do you mean by this? What does a roadmap look like? What's incorporated in that?
Well, I love using roadmaps. I'm an organization freak, and it can be used for a specific project, for a specific launch, for a specific month or week, or you can use a roadmap like a yearly one. So it really depends on what you are pursuing by using those. But for me, they have some basics, which are the main tasks that are going to be splitted in smaller tasks. And once we have that, we are going to add the deadlines. And of course, who is going to be in charge of this? What team is going to be in charge? But who is like the main person that we can reach? Because it's easier to have one person in charge of communicating, and then the rest is working and focusing on the smaller tasks.
And any particular software you tend to prefer for roadmaps like that?
Yeah, for me, it's Airtable. I don't know if you know it, but it's like a dynamic Excel. You can do it on an Excel as well, but Airtable is just the coolest because you can have like different views. Like you can have the roadmap, you can have a listing, you can have a lot of things there. I mean, I'm a very big enthusiast of Airtable, and then you can put different colors in it, so it's just super dynamic and super easy to use. You can invite people, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the website says the fastest way to build apps. So it's almost creating its own bespoke features for what you require as an organization.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And free to start off with, $20 or so after that per seat. So reasonably cost effective.
But so Airtable, let me just, yeah. But I have a free account as well, okay? So if you want to have it for free, it's free to use. It's only you that is going to be the user.
Absolutely. So if an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time focusing on getting the basics right in 2025?
Yeah, so in 2025, I think we should focus on fixing what we already have on our website, and also on improving and optimizing what we already have instead of creating new stuff. Because sometimes we have, I don't know, just a lot of trash in our blog, but nobody is reviewing that anymore. So it's time for us to stop a little bit, to seek for errors and seek for easy changes. And once you have that, then you can continue growing your content. And yeah, that's it.
So what's your favorite way of dealing with blog trash, as you call it? If, for instance, if you've got posts in the past that aren't bringing in any traffic or don't have any noticeable rankings on the SERP, do you just bin them, 301 redirect them to the blog homepage? How do you actually deal with old content?
So a post blog not bringing traffic doesn't mean is 100% trash. I mean, there's something that can be done with it for sure. Or maybe it is not bringing traffic because it is trash in terms of it's duplicating another content that is already ranking. Or I'm going back to the search intent has changed and nobody has reviewed that. So for me, the easiest way to deal with that is if it brings some traffic but is duplicated, I'm going to redirect that to the main one, to the post blog that actually brings more traffic. If it doesn't bring any kind of traffic, it's just going to be a quick review of the content, see if anything can be saved, and just a 410. I mean, you don't have to redirect everything in your blog or in your webpage. That's a mistake, in my opinion. Sometimes you just need to show Google that this content is not going to be there anymore. It's not useful, so I'm just, getting rid of it.
Got you. Okay. And when to do a 410 versus a 404?
404 is when you can, that content probably is going to be available again at some point. Right now, it's not showing because of, I don't know, some mistake or some error. But if you are going to erase that, is a 410. So answering to your question, if you are sure that that content is not going to be used and is not going to be useful or good for your content, for your audience, then I would just go for 410. I know a lot of people are scared of doing that, but it's better to tell Google, hey, I'm not going to have this anymore and I'm going to write something better probably than just putting a 404. Then the next time it crawls, it's 200 and then again 404. So I wouldn't play so much with that.
Got you. Okay. Adelina Bordea is project lead at FreePick and a freelance SEO consultant. You can find her over on LinkedIn. Adelina, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.